Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel Query Solution. So this is the 8th session on the chapter Life Process that we are going to talk today, and in today's video we are going to cover the concept of transportation, which is a very important topic regarding to your grade 10 exams. So in today's entire video, these are the 4 subtopics that we are mentioned. I have mentioned over here. We are going to talk. So we are going to understand all about blood today, its composition, its function, and then the human heart structure through a well-labeled diagram, followed by the process of double circulation, that how does the conduction of the blood or the flow or transportation of the blood occur through the heart, and lastly we are going to understand the topic of blood pressure. So let's start with our very first topic, which is composition of the blood. So rather than directly jumping on the composition of blood, let us first understand what is transportation. So transportation, we do know, something which is moving from one place to another, right? So what do you think? What is that thing in your body which is moving from one place to another? So any idea, any guesses? So many of you would think that one major component which moves in our body from one place to another is your blood, and which is absolutely correct. But is that the only material which flows in your body? Is there something else also which keeps transporting, which keeps flowing from head to the toe of your body or from one part to the other part of your body? So actually the answer is there is another flowing liquid which flows in our body, and that is known as the lymph. So when we talk about lymph, we talk about which system actually? So we talk about the lymphatic system. Alright. And when we talk about blood, we actually talk about the circulatory system. So in today's video, we are not going to discuss much about the lymphatic system. I'll make a separate entire session on lymphatic system later. But in today's session, we are going to talk everything about blood, everything about the circulatory system, and everything about the transportation of the blood. Alright. So let us now cover our first topic, which is the composition of the blood. So when I talk about the composition of blood, so what do you think? What is your blood made up of? Everybody might have seen blood, right? Blood is there in everyone's body. We've seen our body, we've seen other organisms' body also, and it look like that red liquid mainly, kind, very viscous, thick kind of liquid that is there in our body. That is what is blood is all about. But what is actually comprising inside the blood? So blood, in a way, children, has got two main important components into it. The first important component of the blood is something which is known as blood plasma. I think many of you would have heard this term. And another important material that the blood possesses is actually the cells of your body. So what is this plasma and what are the cells that are there? So in our plasma, or in the blood actually, plasma is actually a pale yellow color liquid which is there. So if we collect the blood in a tube, right? There are many people who come for blood test at your home, you might have seen, and they collect the blood through an injection and they pour it in a tube. So you see the blood which is like this. They just pour the blood and it looks like blood is there in the tube to you. But when this blood is actually being centrifuged, when it is actually being rotated at a very high speed, this blood actually separates into these two materials, which is plasma and the cell. So what is plasma? Plasma is actually a kind of liquid which is pale yellow. So I don't have a yellow color, so I am drawing it with green right now. So there is a liquid which comes at the top once this blood is centrifuged at a very high speed. So this liquid which is there on the top is something which is known as plasma. And then there is an accumulation of a cell which we call as a cell debris. This lower material is something which are known as the cells. So this is just to give you an idea what is plasma and what is cell. Plasma is actually the pale yellow liquid which comes out of blood, and this plasma has got a lot of importance when we talk about the lymphatic system. But this debris that it settles down is something which is known as the cells. So how many cells does the blood have? So we know that our blood is comprising of three major type of cell. One cell is known as RBC or the red blood cells. One cell is known as the WBC or the white blood cells, and one cells are your platelets, which play a very important role. And all these three different cells that we have in our body, kids, have got all different types of functions and they perform all different types of roles. So let us now talk about the second important part, which is the functions of the blood. Alright. So what function actually this blood do in our body? What are the different functions of the blood that the body perform? So first important function, let us talk about the cells itself. The RBC we spoke, right? What is this RBC responsible for, or what do they do? So we know by now that RBC carry a respiratory pigment, right? I have already been explaining through my previous video that RBC contains a respiratory pigment which is known as the hemoglobin. And what is hemoglobin going to do? So this hemoglobin will help in the exchange of gases, exchange of oxygen and exchange of carbon dioxide. This is what is the function of RBC. The hemoglobin pigment will help in the exchange of gases. If we talk about WBC, what do they do? So these cells in your blood will travel from your head till your toe and will find if there are any germs there in your body, if there is any antigen there in your body, and if they will find it, they will kill those antigens or the germs there and there. So in a way, what are they giving you? They are providing you with immunity. That's what the function of WBC is all about. Then what about platelets? Platelets definitely would have their own function, right? So yes, platelets help in the clotting of blood. Now what is clotting? Let me explain you very briefly. Just imagine if this is my hand and due to anything or any circumstances, the skin of my hand gets cut. What is going to happen? So blood is going to come out. Very obvious, right? Now because this blood is coming out of my injury, will this blood keep coming out all throughout my life? Or does that happen to you also? You play lots of sports, right? And in playing the sports, in playing games, we get injury, which is very normal. But does that blood that comes out of injury keep coming throughout? So that's not the case, right? After some time, the blood which is there at the injured area gets clogged. And why does it get clogged? Clog in a way I'm saying means the blood will stop coming out of the injured area. And why? Because these platelets which are there, they will accumulate at that injured area and it will not allow the blood to flow further and further. So in a way it is clotting the blood, and in a way it is protecting your body so that your body does not release or does not waste much of the blood out of your body. That's the function of platelets. Okay. So just to give you a glimpse here, these three function kits are very important. You can be asked in 1 mark exam the function of either of the cells. So you should be very well aware about it. Apart from these functions, there are other functions too that your blood is going to do. So the blood helps in transportation of gases is what we have already seen, but it also helps in transportation of the nutrients, and this is what we have studied in the process of digestion, right? The blood will, the nutrients, the digested glucose and other nutrients will mix with the blood and go to different cells of your body. So it helps in transportation of nutrients. At the same time, it helps in the transportation of waste materials also. So there will be lots of waste which your body is going to generate, right? And who is going to carry this waste to the place where it should go out? So again, the blood will play it part. The blood will actually carry the waste and will expel out of your body. And another important function, it helps in maintaining the body temperature. So this is a very possible question of 1 mark or maybe 2 mark where you can be asked to write down the functions of the blood. So these are few functions that I have listed and you can make a note out of it so that you are able to write down this function in exams also. Okay. Now let us talk about in our next section that what and how is the structure of human heart is. Alright. Alright. So let us now study the structure of human heart. So this is what is the diagram that I have drawn. And I'm also drawing a playlist, children. You can find in the playlist section where I'm teaching you how to draw diagrams. So in case if you want to study that as well, you can go to that particular playlist, which is how to draw diagram. That's the title of the playlist, and you can find all these playlists and videos over there where I'm showing you how these diagrams can be drawn. So this human heart structure, first of all, children, have got important components. So let us first of all discuss the first important thing, which is the chambers of human heart. So in the case of humans, since this is a human heart that we are talking about, we do know that the human heart have got how many chambers? So there are actually 4 chambers that the human heart has, right? There are 2 chambers which are the upper chambers and there are 2 chambers which are the lower chambers. So let me show you in the diagram. Can you see this part over here? these two areas, the pink and the blue one, these two chambers are the upper chambers of your heart, and these two chambers are the lower chambers of your heart. And what are they named as? So the upper chamber of the heart is known as atrium. Can you see the left atrium and the right atrium here, right? So the upper chambers of the heart are known as atrium. So let me write down. The upper chambers of the heart are known as atrium and not auricles. So I will upload a short. I'm not explaining right now here, but I'm definitely going to upload a short here where you can find the details in the short that why the upper chambers are said to be atrium and not auricles. Many children write the chambers as left auricle and right auricle, which is absolutely wrong. So I'm not explaining that detail right now here, but please do check out that short in which I'm explaining the concept why atriums and why not auricles. Okay, so now to continue, the upper two chambers here are known as atrium, and the lower two chambers that you can see here are known as the ventricle, the left ventricle and the right ventricle. Okay, so the lower chambers are known as the ventricle. So this is first of all about the chamber of the heart. So the human heart has four chambers, two chambers at the left and right side known as atrium, and two chambers at the lower side, left and right, both known as the ventricles. Alright. Now, another important thing that we need to know about human heart is the divisions in the case of human heart. So the human heart has got divisions into it. Yes. And what are the divisions? So both the left and the right side of human heart, they are separated by a structure which is known as septum. So let me explain you through a diagram what is septum. So looking at this picture over here, this part that you can see is labeled as pink. It is colored as pink. And this part that you can see, it is colored as blue. And what does this suggest? This is the part which is the left part. That's why I've written as left atrium and left ventricle, right? And this is the part which is the right part, which is the right atrium and the right ventricle. So your human heart is not mixed. The left and the right chambers are not mixed with each other. Rather, they are separated. And what is the name of the separating unit? So can you see this little line that I have drawn over here? And this is the thing, children, in the case of human heart, which is known as septum, the division which divides your heart from the left side to the right side. Because there is a different type of blood which flows in the left side of the heart, and there is a different type of blood which flows at the right side of your heart. What is the difference? I'll explain in just a while to you. But to make you understand right now, the left side of the heart has different blood, the right side of the heart has different blood, and this septum or this division which is there between the two does not allow the blood to mix together. That is what is the function of septum. Okay. Another division the human heart has is actually in between the left atrium and the left ventricle, and also the right atrium and the right ventricle. So what is here I am talking about? See, this is the left atrium and this is the left ventricle. Even these two parts are separated. Even these two components are separated from each other. So can you see this flap-like structure coming down? This is something which is known as a valve. They are present, these walls are present on the left side upper and lower chamber, and they are also present at the right side of upper and lower chamber, but they are named differently, right? What is the name of the chamber, or what is the name of structure that separates the left atrium and the left ventricle? So the structure is known as a bicuspid valve. So what is the name of the part that divides the left atrium and the left ventricle? So it is known as a bicuspid valve. And what is the name of structure that divides the right atrium and the right ventricle? So again, this flap-like structure which is known as the tricuspid valve. So you should be very, very clear between what is bicuspid, tricuspid and septum. A very possible question for exam, what does septum divide? So septum divides the left and the right side of heart, both the chambers together. Septum is going to divide them. But if you are going to talk only about the left chamber, the atrium and ventricles at the left side are divided by bicuspid valve, and the atrium and ventricles towards the right hand side are divided by the tricuspid valve. So you don't need to understand what is bi and tricuspid right now in detail. Let me tell you, it is going to come in grade 12 to you. What is the nature? Why we say as bi and tricuspid? But since we are understanding the name here, to give you an idea, bicuspid, as the name suggests, bi means it has got two cusp-like structure, and tricuspid has got something which is three cusp-like structure. That is enough for you to know by now. Okay. So this is the division that we have spoken about. The next important part we need to discuss about human heart are the different blood vessels. So this is now very, very important, because here we are going to talk about many blood vessels, some bigger blood vessels, some smaller blood vessels. So first of all, let us understand what is a vessel at the end of the day. What are vessels? So vessels are actually tube-like structures. These are pipe-like or tube-like structures there in your body from your head till your toe. So imagine your body is designed to flow the blood from your head to toe, and that's what your body is functioning internally. And all the blood which is there in your body is transporting through all these tube-like structure which are known as the blood vessels. So let me give you just a glimpse here through the diagram. Can you see this yellow tube structure here? This is a blood vessel. And what is the name of this blood vessel? Pulmonary artery. Can you see this red tube going through here? This is known as aorta. Can you see these small tubes here? They are known as pulmonary vein. Can you see these tubes here? They are known as superior and inferior vena cava. So we are understanding what are all these, but I am just introducing you with the names. These are names of all the different types of blood vessels that we have in our body. The aorta, the pulmonary vein, pulmonary arteries, your superior and inferior vena cava. These all are the tubes which are associated with the heart, and then they are associated with your body. So to understand the blood vessels, it is very important first of all to understand what are arteries and what are veins. So again, to add you, because I know this video is going to be a very long video, we are talking about many concepts here, but I will again, I'm going to develop a short where I will, in a tabular format, I'm going to explain you the differences, because this is a very possible question for exam again, differences between arteries and vein. So here I'm going to give you just a glimpse, but the detailed description you can find through the short, because otherwise the video will become very long. Okay. So let us understand what are arteries in our body. So arteries are again tube-like structure. As we said, what are blood vessels? So blood vessels are nothing but tube-like structure. So everything that we say are actually tube-like structures. So arteries are also tube-like structure, but what type of tube and what do they carry? So arteries are the tube-like structures which are specialized for carrying a special type of blood which is known as the oxygenated blood. And I hope by now, since there are many videos I have uploaded, you have an idea what is oxygenated blood. A blood which is rich in oxygen is known as an oxygenated blood. Then what could be a vein? If we talk about a vein, what could be a vein? So veins are those tubes which carry the deoxygenated blood. That's what veins do in our body. What type of blood they carry? So they carry blood which is rich in carbon dioxide and less of oxygen. And such a blood which has more concentration of carbon dioxide is known as a deoxygenated blood. That's what these arteries and veins do. Always and always, from your birth till the death of an organism, arteries and veins won't change their function. We change our eating habits, we change our habits, we change our schedules, right? That's what we do, but our body never changes. They know what they have to do, and from our birth till our death, the body and its parts actually, they're going to perform the same function back and back every day, every minute, every second. So what is artery going to do? Artery, which are tube-like structures, will carry the oxygenated blood, and veins, which are again tube-like structures, will carry the deoxygenated blood. But it is very important for you to understand that there are certain exceptions in arteries and veins also. And what are the exceptions here I am talking about? So I am talking about these two structures here, which are the pulmonary vein and the pulmonary artery. So let me first of all write down the names. What is the name here we are talking about? So we are talking about pulmonary vein and pulmonary artery. So can you guess what is common between both of them? If I say pulmonary vein and pulmonary artery, what is common in between both of them? So the common thing or the common factor between both of them is the keyword, which is pulmonary, right? And whenever we use the keyword pulmonary, we are saying something that has got association with the lungs. So first important concept, this yellow tube that you can see is your pulmonary artery. This two short tubes that you can see is your pulmonary vein, and both of these tubes, kids, have got connection with the lungs. So this is first of all important thing you should know, that both of these veins or both of these vessels have got connection with the lung. Now why am I saying them as an exception? So the important thing is, what is an artery function for? What did I say to you? What is an artery going to carry? So arteries are always going to carry oxygenated blood. But then why am I saying this as an exception? Because the pulmonary artery that you have in your body, this structure, this yellow tube that you see over here, is actually not carrying the oxygenated blood, and that is what is the exception. So if it is not carrying oxygenated blood, then what it will carry? So the pulmonary artery as a structure is actually specialized for carrying the deoxygenated blood, means the blood which is rich in carbon dioxide, and that's the exception. As I'm saying you, all the arteries are specialized and they will always carry oxygenated blood only, but only and only the pulmonary artery which is there in your heart, which is like a big blood vessel, is specialized to carry the deoxygenated blood. That's why we are using the word exception. So I think now many of you can guess what can pulmonary vein carry, right? All the veins are specialized to carry what type of blood? So they are specialized to carry the deoxygenated blood. But what pulmonary vein is going to carry? So pulmonary vein is actually going to carry the oxygenated blood, and that's the difference again. So you need to be very clear. Normally arteries carry oxygenated blood. Exception lies in pulmonary artery, which carries the deoxygenated blood. Normally all the veins carry the deoxygenated blood, but the pulmonary vein which is there, it is going to carry the oxygenated blood. Another important thing I want you to note down right now here, as you can see through the diagram, where can you see the pulmonary vein getting associated in the heart? So the pulmonary vein, these two short blue colored tubes that you can see, are associated with which chamber of the heart? So they are associated with the left atrium. So I am just writing LA here. I will relate everything to you when I am explaining you circulation, but just pay attention to what I am saying. Where is your pulmonary vein, which are these two short tubes, associated in the structure of your heart? So they are associated with the upper chamber here, which is the left atrium. And if we talk about pulmonary artery, this yellow tube structure, where is this associated from? So this is associated from the right ventricle of your heart. So let me write down RV, which is the right ventricle. Okay, just understand this much by now. Why and all we'll understand later. Okay, so the pulmonary artery will carry the blood from here. The pulmonary vein is actually going to pour the blood here internally, which is the left atrium. Okay, so we talked about blood vessels. We understood what are arteries, vein. We understood what are the exception. But is that all? So the answer is no. There are still few more blood vessels, the bigger blood vessels actually, which we need to understand. So the next important blood vessel that we need to understand are your AB. Let me just write down this as C. The another important blood vessel, the bigger blood vessel, is something which is known as your aorta. Now see, where is aorta? So can you see this red tube coming here and then bending down and going backward? This is the bigger tube here, which we say as aorta. And why is aorta so important? So first of all, let us see, where is aorta associated in the heart? So this is associated at the left ventricle part. So let me write down, aortas are associated from the left ventricle. So whatever blood will be here, it will carry from the aorta. It will go from the aorta. So aortas associated with left ventricle will carry the blood and will transport the blood to different arteries of your body. Okay, just understand this much by now. Aorta, which is associated with the left ventricle, to whom are they going to transport blood? To different arteries of your body. That is what aorta is going to do. And then another important bigger blood vessels are your vena cava. So can you see the structure here? Superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. These two vena cavas which are there, they are actually going to collect the blood from all the different organs of your body, and then these vena cavas which are there, they are going to pour it back to the heart. That is what is vena cava going to do. Okay, so these are all the important parts, and these vena cava is going to have its association from the right atrium. So just this much is enough to know by now. So I'm just giving you a quick glimpse, a quick recap to what we have understood, because this is very important for all of you to understand. So this is the structure of human heart. First of all, we talked about chambers. So human heart has got 4 chambers. The 2 upper chambers which are known as atrium, left and right side, and the 2 lower chambers which are known as ventricles, again left and right side. That is the first part. The second thing we spoke about the divisions in the heart. So the left and the right side of the heart is divided by a part which is known as septum. As you can see here, this is the part which is known as septum. And even the left atrium and the left ventricle of your heart is divided by bicuspid valve, and the right atrium and the right ventricle of your part, let me just write down R, I have mistakenly written this as this. So the right atrium and the right ventricle of your heart is also divided by a valve which is known as a tricuspid valve. So these are the divisions in the heart internally. Okay. Next, we spoke about the different blood vessels. So in the blood vessels which are tube-like structures, we spoke about arteries which are designed to carry oxygenated blood, veins which are designed to carry the deoxygenated blood. But we also discussed the exceptions, right? We discussed about pulmonary vein which will not carry the deoxygenated blood but will carry the oxygenated blood, and the pulmonary vein have got association at the upper left chamber, left atrium. The pulmonary artery being exception again, having a connection with the right ventricle. Alright, and apart from this, we talked about 2 more bigger blood vessels which are aorta. The red tube you can see here being associated with the left ventricles, which will give all the blood to the different arteries of your body, and then the vena cavas which are associated with the right atrium. So this is completely the explanation on the structure of human heart. So if you are again asked in exam 3-mark question, a 5-mark question, explain the structure of human heart, just draw this well-labeled diagram and explain all these key points that I have written. If you do this, you are going to get your full marks. So now in our next section, we are going to talk about how the blood pumps through the heart. Okay, so let us see that. Alright, so this is just a flowchart that I have drawn to make you understand what is double circulation all about, or what is the transportation of blood all about. So let me just give you a quick example here first of all. We do have water tanks in our houses, right? If you live in an apartment or you live in a standalone house, mainly what does that happen? We get a connection of water, right? And to get that water in the taps that we have in our houses, what do? So we have an overhead tank or maybe a tank at the base of our house, and using a pump, we try to get that water. Through the pressure, we try to get that water and fill our pump, and then we get it distributing to all the different taps in our body, right? Taps in our house mainly, right? That's the exact same thing happening in your body. Your body has got blood. Your body has got this flowing liquid. But there should be something in your body, right, which is going to pump, which is going to take in the blood, which is going to pump the blood out again, take it back again, throw it out again, or pump it out again, right? So this pumping organ that we have in our body is something which is known as your human heart. And this small box that you can see here is what is the diagram of human heart I have drawn in a very, very simple way. And this is the best way I always explain my kids, my children, basically in the classroom. And this example, this flowchart explains them very clearly the concept of double circulation. So we know by now that the human heart has got 4 chambers, 2 on the left side, atrium, ventricles, 2 on the right side, atrium and ventricles, right? Now, why here I have drawn so many things in detail? So whatever points and vessels, the arteries and everything that we have studied here is what I have written. We talked about pulmonary arteries and pulmonary veins. We talked about aortas and vena cavas. We talked about arteries and veins, and this is exactly what I have written here. Now to understand how does the flow and the conduction of this blood or transportation of the blood happens in our body and through the heart, let us start with the very first ground rule. And what is the ground rule through the heart? The heart will always and always pump the blood from the atrium to the ventricle. That is very important for you to understand. The blood will always flow, irrespective left or right side. But the blood will always flow from the atrium to the ventricle. Even if it is left atrium or left ventricle, the blood will flow down. And even if it is right atrium and right ventricle, the blood will flow down. This is the ground rule. Blood is never going to flow from the ventricles to the atrium, right? And we know why does that happen, because we have valves, and valve does not allow the backflow of the blood. We already have studied the bicuspid and tricuspid valve. So these valves will not allow the backflow of the blood to happen. So the direction of flow will always be from the upper chambers to the lower chamber. That's first ground rule that we should be aware about. Now let us start understand this process with regards to the lungs. So why lungs are important here? Why in this entire process of circulation I have written a different organ, a respiratory organ, lung here? Because see children, at the end of the day, here when we are talking about the concept of transportation, we are talking about blood. And along with blood, what is blood? Transporting through the heart. So the blood is transporting gases. The blood is transporting oxygen. The blood is transporting carbon dioxide. And since here we are talking about gases, which is the organ which is responsible for the exchange of gases? So it is also the lung. And that is the same reason here, when we are trying to understand the pumping action of heart, the pumping action of blood through the heart, it is very important that we consider the lungs also, because this is the organ which is going to give in the oxygen and going to give out the carbon dioxide, right? So we know in the lungs we have alveoli, and we have studied in respiration that the alveoli have got connection with the blood. Now understand, we guys have inhaled, right? We have just gone through a deep inhalation, and with all the respiratory pathway in our lungs and in our alveoli, we have got a rich supply of oxygen. So what is going to happen? The blood which is there in our body, or the blood which is associated with the alveoli here, is actually getting mixed with oxygen. So this type of blood is which type of blood? This is now an oxygenated blood, a blood which is rich in oxygen. Now this oxygenated blood, so let me not write down like this, but let me write down the oxygenated blood. So the oxygenated blood which is coming from the lungs through the alveoli connection. So the oxygenated blood first of all is going to go in which part of your body, or it is going to go in which blood vessels of the heart? So the oxygenated blood is going to go into the first important blood vessel, which is the pulmonary vein. Now keep relating here to here. What did I say to you? What is the exception? Pulmonary vein will carry which type of blood? Oxygenated blood. And that is what we are studying here, right? The lungs will carry the oxygenated blood. The alveoli now, since being rich in oxygen, have oxygenated blood. And where are they going to pour this blood? So they are going to pour, or the vessel which is going to take this oxygenated blood first of all is your pulmonary vein. Okay. Now this pulmonary vein will now transfer the blood to the heart. So what is the ground rule? Where the blood will flow? From atrium to ventricle. So the pulmonary vein will transport the blood first of all to the left atrium. From the left atrium it is going to go to the left ventricle, and from the left ventricle now it is going to go to the aorta. So let me explain you through the diagram also, so that you guys are very clear. Imagine if here is the lung, above side we have lung. So what is the lung going to do? Lung has got oxygenated blood. Now these two small pipes that you see here are your pulmonary vein, and here also we are talking pulmonary vein. So the lungs have oxygenated blood now, and through the pulmonary vein they are transporting to the upper left chamber, which is left atrium. From the left atrium it is going to go to the left ventricle, and this left ventricle has got connection over here of the red pipe. And what is this red pipe here known as? So this is known as aorta. Even here I have explained you, if you can remember, aorta has connection with the left ventricle, and that is what we have written. From the left ventricle the blood is going to come to aorta. Aorta will transport it where? So aorta is going to transport it to all the different arteries of your body. And imagine, What are arteries going to transport? So arteries are going to transport the oxygenated blood, which we are learning here right away. Now, as these arteries will transport the oxygenated blood, what is the end place? What is the final place the arteries need to transport this blood to? So they need to transport it to all the cells of your body. So again, we are coming back to the same concept of respiration. Why? Because we know this oxygenated blood that has traveled all through the pulmonary vein, through the heart, through the aorta, through the arteries, coming to the cells, at the end of the day is giving all the oxygen to the cells. Why? So that the cells can perform respiration. And we know if respiration is performing, we are going to get energy molecules in the form of ATP. We are going to get water also. And along with this, we are going to get a gas, which is carbon dioxide, right? And now this blood which was bringing in oxygen has been utilized. The oxygen is all used for this process of respiration. And what is left now? So the material which is left now is your carbon dioxide. So the blood is not going to leave this carbon dioxide just like that. What is your blood going to do now? So now your blood is going to mix with this CO2. So now what type of blood you have? Now you have got a blood which is mixed with CO2. And what do we say such blood as? So the blood which has got more concentration of CO2 now is something we say as a deoxygenated blood. So just imagine how beautifully your body transformed. When it was coming from the lung, it was oxygenated. It traveled all the pathway till the cells. Your cells performed respiration. Your cells made all these three different raw materials. And now your blood has, since more concentration of CO2, it is no more oxygenated, but now it has become deoxygenated. And how this deoxygenated blood is going to flow back? So then now through the different veins which carry the deoxygenated blood in your body, now since this blood is deoxygenated, it will go through the veins. Then it is going to go through the bigger vessels which are the vena cavas, right? So sorry, let me just use a blue pen here. Through the veins, through the vena cava superior and inferior both will pour the blood back in your right atrium. From your right atrium going to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, now the blood is going to go to the bigger blood vessel again, which is your exceptional vessel being pulmonary artery, right? So normally all arteries will carry oxygenated blood, but pulmonary artery, as I said, is going to carry the deoxygenated blood. So from the right ventricle through the pulmonary artery, now your blood is going to go back to your lungs. Why it is going to go back to your lung? So that again, once when we are inhaling, the blood can become oxygenated. Once becoming oxygenated, it will go through the pulmonary vein again, then through the left atrium, left ventricle, through the aortas, arteries will go to the cells. Cells will perform respiration. Cells will generate energy. Cells will release water vapor. Cells will generate carbon dioxide also. And this carbon dioxide will again be absorbed by the same blood. There is no change of blood, the same blood. But now since it has more concentration of CO2, your blood has become deoxygenated, which will go through the different veins. Then will go through the vena cava, superior and inferior. Superior means those organs which are above the heart. So superior vena cava will collect the blood from the ones which are above the heart, and inferior vena cava will collect the blood which are from below the heart, right? So in a way both are collecting deoxygenated blood only, but that's what superior and inferior means. Superior means the one above heart, inferior means the organs which are below the heart. So they will carry all the blood from all the organs, give it back to the atrium, which is again the ground rule. They can't directly give to ventricles, but they have to give to the atrium. From the atrium, the blood will go to the ventricles, and then again the exceptional blood vessel, that is through pulmonary artery, the blood is going to go back to the lung. And this cycle, kids, will keep on repeating in your heart, back and back. So just see now, the left side of everything I have drawn with a red pen. Why? Because here the blood which is flowing is your oxygenated blood. That's why I have drawn everything with a red pen. And here, why I have drawn everything with a blue pen? Because every part of the blood which is flowing is actually your deoxygenated blood, right? So since in your heart, the blood is passing twice. Now understand what is double circulation. since in your heart this is one cycle, and in one cycle what are we seeing? One time the blood is being oxygenated coming through left part, another cycle the blood is being deoxygenated coming through the right part. So in one cycle of circulation the blood is passing twice through heart, one in the form of oxygenated blood and one in the form of deoxygenated blood. That is the very same reason we say this circulation as double circulation. Double circulation means since it's happening twice, one in oxygenated form, one in deoxygenated form. That's why this circulation in human is known as double circulation. A very important 5-mark question, what is double circulation? So this is the entire flowchart. If you draw, you're going to get your full marks, and this is explaining everything in detail what you need to know with regards to grade 10 also. Okay, so let us talk about the last part of the video that we talked today, which is the blood pressure. So blood pressure is something which is very common. You might have seen many people in your house going to a hospital or going to a clinic where somebody just tries to put something here at the elbow region, and then through an instrument they keep either pumping or they have a machine which they press it and then they give the readings out of it, right? So that instrument which is used to measure the blood pressure is known as sphygmomanometer. A very possible 1-mark question. Name the instrument which is used for measuring blood pressure. So that's known as sphygmomanometer. You should know this keyword. Very important. Now, what do they actually measure? Okay, they have kept something on the elbow and now they are pressing it, or they have pressed the button and then they get some value. What is the value at the end of the day that they are getting is, they are getting a value of a pressure which is exerted by the walls of your arteries, right? And we know by now what is arteries going to carry? The oxygenated blood in our body, right? We know by now. So the pressure which is exerted by the walls of artery is something which we say as the blood pressure. And whenever they see, or whenever we are checking the blood pressure, we check in terms of the ventricles, the pressure in the ventricles. And now since why I have written 2 points here, one is a ventricular systole. Systole means what? Systole is an important keyword, and systole means contraction. So once the ventricles will be contracted, the pressure exerted by the walls of arteries when ventricles are contracted is known as a ventricular systole, and the pressure exerted by the walls of arteries when the ventricles are relaxed, then that is known as a ventricular diastole. So what generally do you see a reading when the sphygmomanometer shows? You see something like 120 to 80 mm of Hg, right? Or then you might see something more higher or lower also. So the upper reading of the heart that you see is because of the ventricular systole, and the normal range for it is what? So the normal range is 120 mm of Hg. And for the ventricular diastole, you might have seen the lower blood pressure, the upper pressure and lower pressure people generally say in general words basically. So the upper pressure is actually the ventricular systole and its normal range is 120. The ventricular diastole, its normal range is 80. That's why we say 120 to 180 mm of Hg is your normal blood pressure. Anything above this or anything below this is something which is known as a low or a high BP, right? So in today's session, children, we have completed everything in detail, all the subtopics that we talked about. We spoke about the composition of the blood. We spoke about the functions of the blood. We understood the structure of human heart. Then we understood the concept of double circulation, and then we have also talked about the concept of blood pressure. I'm going to upload a short on what is pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation. So check out that short. I'm not adding in this video because it will elongate the video further. Also, as I said I'm going to upload shorts on difference between oxygenated, deoxygenated blood and arteries and veins also, because they are also very much possible questions for your exam. So do check out that shorts which you can find in the playlist. Check out them. If you are liking them, give a thumbs up. It will motivate me to make videos for you further. Like my channel, subscribe to the channel, and thank you for watching my video. Happy learning, guys.